Hi, my name is Greg and welcome to Chapter 7 in my 1949 P3 Rover restoration story. In this chapter I'm going to cover the work that I've done on the brakes on the car. When I bought the car it hadn't run for many years and neither had the brakes worked. So this chapter will just cover the process of the brake restoration and some of the challenges that I faced along the way. Hope you enjoy it. Okay, the task today is to do some work on the brakes. The brakes on this car haven't worked for many years, so they're pretty much seized up. I'm going to have to basically pull the brakes apart completely. I'm going to take the brake drums off, take the wheel cylinders out and get everything reconditioned. The first challenge I've got is just to get the brake drums off. Just have a close look at this rear wheel. There's 3 screws, one there, and one there, that hold the brake drum on. The problem I've got is if I try and undo those screws, the whole brake drum turns. So to help me out, I've made a tool which I think will help. I'll just zoom out again. Wrong way. Just made this tool which will help. I'll just put the tool on now just so you can see how the idea works. Okay, so there it is. I've just using the wheel studs. I've cut a piece of plate and then welded a bar onto that plate. What I can do now is then bolt this plate on using the wheel nuts. And that should then hold the drum still because the end of the rod rests on the concrete. So we'll see how that goes. There'll be some overlap in this chapter with chapter 6 where I covered the restoration work that I did on the chassis rails. That's a bit unavoidable really because anyway. This shot is a shot taken from my friend Alvin's car. He also has a P3 that he's restoring. This shot has the floorboards removed and it shows what I refer to as the cross shaft, which is part of the mechanical braking mechanism on the P3. So I took lots of photos and some measurements of these parts from Alvin's car as I knew I'd have to go and figure out a way of making them myself. This shot shows the cross shaft that was missing from my car. Cross shaft's a very important part which I had to make because it forms a very sort of integral part of the mechanical braking mechanism that operates the rear brakes on the car. I have the cross shaft removed from Alvin's car now, so I'm just taking some detailed measurements of it and some rough sketches. There's also a bracket at either end of this shaft which I had to replicate as well. Once I got home I made much more detailed drawings that much more closely resemble a proper engineering drawing. You can also see in this shot my attempts at making the brackets that go either end of that cross shaft. This is my cross shaft on the way to completion. I copied the original reasonably well, I did make some modifications. The original cross shaft has like a bronze bearing bush inside, and then it has an oil seal, I think, at either end, and the tube is filled with oil. Rather than copy that, I just used a modern sealed ball bearing at either end, and then I just bored a recess in either end of the tube to fit the bearing. There's an arrangement of steel rods that activate the rear brakes, so these are some of the steel rods removed from my car. Just remove them to clean them up and paint them. All nicely engineered stuff with clever spins and really solid bit of engineering. Now I'm just pulling all the sort of rod braking mechanism apart into its separate bits so they can clean them up properly and paint them. This is the underside of the brake pedal removed from the car. The rubbers on top of the pedal were pretty worn, so I got some reproduction rubbers with the big letter R written on top of them.
And here are the pedals fitted back in the car with the new rubber pads on top. You can also see the rubber grommets where the pedal goes through the firewall of the car. They're sort of filled with felt. I managed to get some new reproduction ones. These are actually for a Series 1 Land Rover, but exactly the same grommet that was fitted to the P3. This is one of the rear brakes. I've removed the brake shoes and brake springs at this point, and just proceeding to really take all the component parts off for reconditioning. At this point I was taking off the brake fluid reservoir and all the brake lines. I managed to get a nice reproduction brake fluid reservoir tin. Here's the master cylinder removed from the car. I sent this off to Power Brakes at Holden Hill here in Adelaide for reconditioning. Here's the backing plate from one of the front brakes, just all cleaned up and repainted. I had all new brake lines made up by Power Brakes at Holden Hill. I just got them to use the old pipes as and templates. So here I am trying to sort out which bit of pipe goes where. And here's one of the backing plates from the rear brakes, so just starting to put everything back together at this point. This shows one of the rear brakes all fully assembled now. I managed to reuse the return springs that were there. They weren't in too bad a shape, but the mechanisms have all been sort of pulled apart, cleaned up, re-greased, and they're looking good now. Bit difficult to make out what's what with this shot, but it shows the differential with some of the rod braking mechanism at the back. Again, I'd taken all that apart, cleaned it up, and repainted it. Well, the brake restoration is well progressed now. After getting the brake drums off, my next job was to source some parts. Much to my surprise, I found that the brake shoes that you see here were missing altogether from the front brakes. I managed, after doing a lot of searching around, I managed to source some second-hand ones from a supplier in England. And then once I had those, once they arrived, I had all 4 pairs of brake shoes reconditioned and relined by Power Brakes out at Holden Hill. Whilst they were working on that, I also had them recondition the hydraulic wheel cylinders, such as that one at the front, also the rear mechanical ones. They've been machined out and re-sleeved in stainless steel. Also missing from the front brakes were the return springs. There's a spring there and a spring that you can't see so well here at the bottom. They were missing, so I had some new ones made up by a company not too far from where I live, called City Springs out at Woodville North. They made them up for me. So what you're seeing here now is pretty much the finished job. I've also replaced the flexible brake hoses and all the brake linings as well. I've bled the brakes and everything seems to be working pretty well. So now for the first time in many years, the car has brakes again. I also forgot to mention that I also had all the brake drums machined. So here you can see one of the front brake drums machined, all looking nice and pretty. You can't see on this side, but I'll show you one on the back. Just moving over now, here we go. That's one of the rear drums. I'll just focus on that a bit. So after I got them back from machining, I've painted them up with a heat resistant paint, and then cured that paint by cooking the drums in my Weber barbecue. That's worked pretty well. The paint hopefully will last for a while.
Well, hi again. I'll conclude chapter 7 on the brakes at this point. Not sure what I'll cover in the next chapter. There's a few options, but anyway, stay tuned and bye for now.